Hey there. Today is once again a video that I didn't originally have planned to come out today, but AMG seems to love saving some of their hottest drops until the day before or the day I usually have a video coming out. But also, needless to say, I am really excited to talk about this character, so I don't mind it too much. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. This video is going to be fun because we are going to be talking about probably my favorite Thor villain, or at least he makes the top two. Unfortunately, they haven't really adapted him to the MCU, or at least not very well. Malekith is the embodiment of a chaotic evil character from a D&D campaign. And to boot, he is a cunning tactician and quite adept at sorcery, all while being a little bit mad. So, with this image of Malekith in mind, let's take a look at our first 7-threat character, Malekith the Accursed, who has the alter ego of Malekith. He has 10 stamina, moves medium on a 65mm base, is size 4, all for the already mentioned 7-threat. His defenses across the board are 4s, which is really nice. His first attack is an energy one called the Blade of Midnight. Has a range of 2, strength of 7, and costs nothing. Like most strikes, it will gain him power equal to the damage dealt, and additionally, on a wild, the attack gains Pierce. His second attack is a Mystic Beam called Blood Boil. It is a beam 4 with a strength of 5 for, again, no power. This attack will gain Malekith 1 guaranteed power per target hit, and on a wild, the target character will gain poison. So these first two are setting up to be really nice. And then we have his Spender, Butcher of Thors. This attack is a physical one. It has a range of 3, strength of a whopping 10 dice, all for 4 power. But that's not even all of it. After the attack is resolved, Malekith is placed within range 1 of the target, which is really nice. And additionally, for every wild in the attack roll, the defending character gains one of the following conditions: Bleed, Shock, Slow, or Stun, with Shock and Stun probably being my personal favorites from that list. I am going to be going over all of this in more depth, obviously, but he has some solid attacks as a starting point. He does also have a leadership for the Cabal called the Dark Council, but I'll touch on that at the end of the video. First, we have his 3 superpowers to talk about. Ferocity is an active power that costs 2 and an action. Our Accursed friend then gets to make a medium move followed by a Blade of Midnight attack action. If that attack deals damage, after the attack is resolved, you can throw the target short. This superpower can thankfully only be used once per turn. And I know this is good. You know that this is good. But I'm going to go back and point out 2 limiters that are missing here. There is no size restriction on the throw, and there is no directional restriction on this throw. So hurl that enemy anywhere. Next up is Cloak of Shadows, and this is where he begins to get really scary. And if you thought he was scary beforehand, you may not like this. Cloak of Shadows is a reactive power that triggers after the Accursed has rolled an attack, defense, or dodge roll, but before you resolve criticals. Malekith may then spend any amount of power. For each power spent, choose a failure result, also known as a skull, and treat it as a crit for the remainder of that roll. So this timing is very important because it means you get to roll in extra dice for those failures that become crits. Additionally, if you only have 2 crits but spend 3 power, if you end up rolling in an extra skull, you can count it as a crit according to the rulings on Domino's probability manipulation, which has identical wording. So this is going to make this kitty very consistent on attacks and defense rolls, making his 4s across the board even more daunting, and his big attacks even scarier. Finally, we get to his innate powers. Conqueror of the 10 Realms gives him an extra power in the power phase, and enemies cannot modify their attack dice when targeting this character. This, in combination with his Cloak of Shadows, makes him even more durable. And finally, he has the flight keyword along with immunity to Hex and Stun. He does have a single change on his injured side, and that is that he goes down to 8 stamina. And as such is a bit easier to take down, but I still think he's going to be a pain to take down regardless. And with that said, let's dive into the pros and cons. And because this is our first 7 threat, this is kind of unexplored territory outside of a gemmed up Thanos at the moment. So I'm going to be doing some comparisons about how Malekith stacks up to those just below and above his threat level along the way. First of all, on the pro side, this character is death incarnate on the table. He hits like a Hulk with dice consistency and a pierce on his strike, and when he charges in with that attack, he's also probably getting a throw off as well. His beam will allow him to hit multiple enemy characters to either easily build power or just to wreak some easy havoc on multiple enemies. His spender will end up just deleting characters left and right as long as Malekith has some power reserved to turn those inevitable failure results into more criticals. Malekith is going to hurt, and with his charge being active turn 1, he's going to get to it right away. Defensively, he is also going to be really well off, and will at times feel like you're just banging your head against a wall trying to get through his health because you can't add most forms of consistency to your attacks. And he is adding one of the better forms of consistencies to his defense rolls. Malekith is the ultimate brawler, and at a whopping 7 threat, he probably deserves that. And because of his charge and spinner's place, he also has some pretty nice mobility on his side. His offensive output is probably most comparable to that of a beat-up Hulk or a powered-up Magneto. But Malekith has the extra mobility to make that lethal bubble bigger than those two. As far as cons go, really, it is just his lack of additional interactions outside of his actions. Dormammu can shove away characters that are attacking him and can teleport himself and is immune to stagger. Hulk has action-free movement and a big ol' terrain throw. Magneto has throws equal to his power. And Thanos can help allies hit harder and has a Titan's worth of control with his gems and cosmic portal. Malekith is very dependent on his actions because outside of those 2 actions a turn, he can't do anything. Now again, those 2 actions are going to be some of the deadliest 2 actions in the game a lot of the time, and that's where the train comes to a screeching halt for Malekith. Really, that's just balanced character design, because if they gave him more tools, it would be way too much. Heck, they already had to shove his flight and immunities out to the side under his character portrait because there wasn't any more room on his card. If they toned him down much on what he can do, well, then he probably doesn't end up getting played too much, because if he gets turned off by his biggest weaknesses, a stagger condition, well, Malekith suddenly feels like a lot closer to a 4 threat than he does 7. And sure, stagger hurts everyone, but the other 6 threats can still manage to do more because of their extra move, throw, or defensive ability like Bodyguard for She-Hulk. So what I'm really getting at here is that Malekith is more balanced than what he may look like at first glance, because he does look very, very scary, but if he just spends a turn doing his beam twice, for example, that's something that Vision could do. Spoiler alert, Malekith will not just be doing his beam twice in a turn most of the time. So for the person playing Malekith, go and try to do as much damage as you can while either killing the black cats of the world quickly or just avoiding them outright, because a 3-threat staggering you is going to suck. So if you avoid the bad matchups, enjoy the murder. For the people playing against Malekith, know that you are going to lose a game to this guy and his ridiculous damage output at some point. And even with everything I have said, you might end up being a bit surprised by what he's able to do. So I will say, don't be afraid to run away from the big scary kitty. Really, retreat to a different objective. Make it so that this 7-threat character is only getting off 1 7-die attack in a turn, and just pray you don't see him on Gamma Shelters. With all of that said, let's talk about affiliations now. At this point, we know he is at least a member of the Cabal because he is a leader for the Cabal. The one I'm not sure of yet is if he's going to be a member of Asgard, and I could kind of see it going either way. It's just going to depend on how much AMG wants to stretch out what Asgard encompasses, since right now anyone from the different realms other than Earth falls under that banner. But man, would Malekith love it if he's affiliated with Thor, or if he's just rolling with Crimson Dynamo and those abilities that shake off conditions. As I think his biggest weakness is going to be status conditions piling on him to make him less and less effective. So either of those two places, affiliated or otherwise, are going to be really good for him. The other standout place for Malekith is with Star-Lord and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Having Malekith swing up the battlefield with a 7-die strike and 2 rerolls turn 1 is the stuff of nightmares for an opponent. And it only gets scarier when he will have those rerolls and the power for his Cloak of Shadows later in that game. But now, let's talk about the leadership he brings to the Cabal, the Dark Council. And it's very similar to Sam's leadership, but with the opposite triggering effect. It says when this character or an allied character dazes or KOs an enemy character, choose another non-dazed allied character. After the effect is resolved, the chosen character may remove 1 damage, gain 1 power, and may advance short. A character can be affected by this leadership ability only once per round. This is good. This is really good, especially when it's already on the most lethal model in the game. Thankfully, the character that got the daze or KO can't be the one that also gets to move, heal, and power themselves up, but this is going to be a very powerful ability. As for the characters that will benefit from this leadership that are in affiliation, I think there are a couple of standouts, and that is MODOK and Omega Red. Just kind of love every part of this leadership, since they can both spin that power well, are both pretty durable, so the healing does better for them than it does for just a Shuri or something. And since they move short, the extra movement is going to be very welcome. Getting characters just into range for them to be set up for their activation is going to be great, but maybe the best use I have heard so far is going to be for characters with Bodyguard or Too Dangerous to Ignore getting into position to help out their allies, and a power to then make sure that they can protect their buddies. Honestly, this leadership and character are a lot to take in, so I can't go too deep into roster building with solid advice at this point. I will say though, a couple of tactic cards that you will love to see alongside Malekith are Dark Reign, since at the end of the day, he is very dice reliant, and making those dice more consistent is not going to be a bad thing. And Smash, because adding 3 dice to his beam just feels wrong and good all at the same time. If it isn't obvious, I am really looking forward to trying him out myself, and if I find a good roster that ticks around his leadership, I'm sure it will either end up on the channel in the form of a battle report or a roster review once I get in some games. But this wraps up my thoughts on our new Tiger King. Here at the end of the video, I want to give a shout out to the guild sponsors, Tritex Games and War Room Hobbies, which are both local gaming stores that host game nights, events, and the like, as well as offering MCP miniatures at a nice discount. If you shop from them, use the code TritexGGCP5 at checkout when shopping with Tritex to save an extra 5% off, and the code MCP2022 will get you an extra 10% off of your order from War Room. So if you want to paint this gorgeous mini, or just try the giant kitty on the table and are shopping online anyways, consider using these stores and discounts to both help out the channel as well as an LGS that is hosting game nights and events. However, if you are already shopping from your LGS, that's awesome. Keep supporting them. We understand and support that. But if you're still wanting the way to support the guild's videos or podcast, check out our Patreon page. I will also say here at the end, thank you to all the members of the Guild Hall who are supporting what we do here and making new things happen. Specifically the new project that will be coming to fruition, hopefully come the 3rd anniversary of the channel next month. We also have a monthly giveaway thanks to Tritex. All you need to do to enter is be subscribed to the channel and leave a comment on a video the same month that that video was released. If you have enjoyed my thoughts and are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button for a weekly dose of MCP content in the form of reviews, battle reports, and other MCP goodness. As well, you can find the Gamers Reload podcast on several different apps and platforms now. If you don't see it on the one you use, shoot me a message at one of the either, I guess, the email down below or in the description. There's also a link to the Gamer Guild Facebook page. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.